Hello, we are here today to speak with Kim Bloomberg Seamus about the RAEGAN-HEITZIG case. Kim, you're referred to on your Facebook page as Rev Kimmy. Would you please tell us about that?
Well, I am a licensed, ordained Christian minister, over 20 years.
Okay. And what kind of ministry do you have?
I have a care ministry, which includes hospitals in the past, about 20 years, which within that includes ICU, ER, regular beds, mental wards, convalescent, as well as hospice.
Okay. And
then within the care, of course, it's missing persons.
All right.
Since 1997.
And is that your primary occupation?
No. I earn a living from being a litigation and trial paralegal at law firms. And sometimes I have worked at the courthouse with the judges and the public, helping the public like with their divorces or modifications and stuff like that, paternity workshops.
Okay. Well, this is a very, very interesting case. When I first heard about it and reading about it, I come to find out that a head-on boat collision involved 16 people, and only 12 were rescued. How did you get involved in this case, and what was the background, the circumstances of that?
Well, the thing is that at the time I was working for a maritime law firm, and which are any incident on water, we represented, people who were insured through boats. And this particular one, this case hit my RAEGAN-HEITZIG's case in 2018 is when the accident happened, Labor Day. And the case just fell on my desk. I was involved working on this particular case, litigation at the law firm. We were handling it there. And some things I handled and worked on.
Oh, so this one didn't come to you as a part of your prophetic ministry. This came to you as a part of your professional legal obligations and occupation.
Yeah, I really wanted to go and work on it in recovery of her body, attempting to find her. However, I had a major conflict of interest, which I have never revealed to the public before, but I will now. We actually were representing the boat that put RAEGAN-HEITZIG in the water.
Oh.
So it was a major conflict of interest. So I could not go work on it until my assignment there was done. I was hired to handle some trials and to be there to handle some litigation matters for a certain duration of time. And until that contract was met, then I can leave. I'm no longer a part of the law firm, and I was able to go work on the case to collaborate with a sergeant who was in charge over at the Mojave Sheriff's Department.
Okay. I looked at this case, and Lake Havasu is an interesting lake. It actually is formed by a widening of the Colorado River. There is considerable current. It's fairly warm water, at least in the shallow areas. And looking at where the accident occurred and where her body was eventually recovered is about 12 and a half miles. And we're looking at almost 2 years that she was missing. Personally, having written a book on drowning forensics, I would not have expected her to ever be found at that point. But you got involved after the case was settled and everything somehow, and you went looking for her. How did God get you involved in this?
Yeah, well, it's just I'm always moved with compassion. And after I was done with my contract at the law firm, representing the boat that put her in the water, RAEGAN. So then, like I said, I contacted the sergeant in charge. He wouldn't work with me unless he can affirm with some other law enforcement that, yes, I've done this before in recovery to assist law enforcement. So I gave a name and number to that sergeant, and he called a homicide detective at a different sheriff's department, and that they confirmed, yes, Kim worked with us and she helped us. And so that's how the sergeant on Regan HEITZIG's case allowed me to collaborate with him in an effort to recover her body using my ministry gifts. So I have a friend who resides there in Lake Havasu. He's a retired CHP officer, Jim Polder. And he has also, with what he's witnessed, with what occurred on this case, he's executed a declaration under penalty of perjury, which people can find in the comments to this video. I went to his house and I stayed there. And I worked the case alone. I went to the dock area nearest to where the accident, the head-on collision occurred. And I prayed for several hours, many hours, seeking God, what's going to happen, what to do, what can be done, what's going to occur. And God revealed to me that she's stuck on something. She's eventually going to be loosed, and she will come up on land and be discovered by someone, and it will be called in. Now that, she went missing. The head-on collision occurred Labor Day 2018. She came up, that word, that prophetic word that was given, I gave it to the sergeant in charge at Mojave Sheriff's Department to know what will occur, as well as to Jim and his wife. And so on July the 4th, 2020, this came to pass. She did come up on a sandbar, was discovered, and was called in. Now this is a miracle because this occurred 2 years after the head-on collision. In the Colorado River, the current is heavy. We experienced it. Jim and I and his wife, we returned a few months later, or a few weeks later, in his boat to try to attempt to help locate where she's stuck so that we can tell Sergeant in charge, and then he can go there with his sonar, because he told me the current is too strong for divers.
Yeah.
Okay. So it is a miracle. And when I learned about it, I, of course, I cried. I cried for probably a half hour, 45 minutes. It was overwhelming. I think that's a real miracle for her to come up. I don't know the condition of her body, a person being in the water for 2 years and how that works, but I don't know if you can identify that's a human or how that works, to what degree you're seeing. But I think it's a miracle. And it's so much so that because I'm in judicial law, I do live by evidence. I couldn't believe what I was reading online. I actually had to call the Sheriff's Department, Mojave Sheriff's Department. They transferred me to the medical examiner's office. I talked to the medical examiner, and he confirmed that, yes, it was Regan HEITZIG, it really was, who came up on that sandbar. Because I want to tell people the truth. I don't want to mislead people. I wanted speak to the medical examiner to really hear it from him, that it really was her. So it's very unfortunate, but it is a miracle that her remains were recovered so that she can have a proper burial and her family have closure.
Yes, I would agree. Water will retard, slow down the decomposition, and the cold water even more. But after a year and 10 months, there really shouldn't have been enough to cause the body to refloat. She should have, in all likelihood, stayed down at that point and never been recovered. So for her to come up as God revealed she would, is, in my opinion, as a water expert, is a miracle.
Yeah, it's a miracle from what I've witnessed as an expert, as a reverend.
Yeah.
I've seen miracles, and this is a miracle. This really is. It's just amazing.
Well, anything else you'd like to say about the case that we're discussing?
Yeah, at the law firm, backpedaling, before I got involved and contacted the sergeant, I was still at the law firm with a conflict of interest. I tried everything to go and help much earlier on searching to try to recover her. And I met with an attorney and discussed possibly, can I do it on my own weekend, on my own time? And it was absolutely not, which I knew, but I wanted to try to really go help. So I had to wait for several months to get involved. And by that point, they had so many professional divers coming in from all over many different states. It was in huge news media, all in the Good Morning America, etc. Because actually I was the person at the law firm keeping track of all of the interviews, in writing or video on television, and etc. I had to keep track of all of that because that's a part of discovery. You know, it's part of what we need to know what's going on in the litigation. Of the witnesses and what they're saying and stuff like that. So I handled that.
Okay.
So I was